This is my cat, which I like to hold, and the name is Nina. Let's see you play baseball. Flip!
You could be like really, really happy, then all of a sudden, like a little thing could happen, and you'll be like totally like depressed and like angry and stuff.
I'm just like really mad and stuff when I'm like doing it, and but after I just like regretted everything I did.
I thought about trying to jump out a window, like from here.
That's when the teeth clench and the veins, and he does like, And so sometimes you just bite the bullet and just say, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to do that now, and watch out.
You take her to a hospital and they just say, well, she's got problems with her personality and you need to be stricter with her. She needs help.
Asher's therapist, she calls bipolar a label and doesn't believe in it.
Be my son for one day. It is a different tantrum, and when you see it, you know you're looking at someone that is in the middle of a brain crisis.
Patient is an 8-year-old female hospitalized due to the progressive increase in agitation, aggression, disorganization, and grandiose ideas. Also reports of seeing monsters and trees coming to life and attacking her. That was a 3-week hospitalization. She hit and kicked staff. Patient reached over desk and tried to answer the phone, asked to have. Okay, that's not a safe choice. Hand him over. 1.
No. I want to talk to you.
Okay, so just say, Mom, I need you, and I'll listen. Put that
Why
back.
can't I do that with you?
Why can't you do what with me?
Because let me go as soon as we get here.
In the hospital, 5 adults trained to work in the pediatric unit, and 2 more on the side. There was like 7 of them ready to hold her down because it could take that many to hold her, to get her restrained.
Dad, you were right. You were wrong. You do still get your driver's license when you're 15. You just get your car when you're 16.
Well, in your case, you can get your driver's license when you're 25. You can get your car when you're 35. And you can go on your first date when you're about 45, boo.
Dad!
Question? You know, when your kid comes out, you look, you count the number of fingers and toes, and you think, you know, healthy, I'm done. You know, they should act a certain way. And then when they don't, you think, naturally, the first thing is, well, it must be me, so I'll read the 1, 2, 3 books. And, you know, when they still don't, then you're like, okay, well, there's yet another problem.
I had to get an x-ray of my brain called the CIT, and then a bigger one of them, because I kept telling them that my head was kind of, felt like one side is really fast and the other was really slow, extremely of both, and they kept switching places. Yeah.
Do you want to pick it up? You can. I need 2 more. Liv, we're in a parking lot and I need to see. Come on. Come on. Liv, we're talking about beef jerky. Liv, are we going?
Liv!
You want a snack?
Wait.
Let's get you a snack. But you can't walk away from me in the grocery
You
store.
won't let me have any snacks.
Come on, let's see what I got in the car.
You won't let me have any snacks.
Come on.
No.
That part is really hard, that people just stare at you and think you're just a parent that doesn't have any control and you don't care. I don't think I could care any more than I do. There was a mother of one of Liv's classmates.
And I kept saying we could probably have a play date, and he said no, my mom would allow it. So, actually, sometimes I feel like I should kill myself, or I would kill anyone else. So a lot of times that happens.
Do you remember which one that one is?
We get the squishy one. We need the squishy one.
She's been on Abilify, Adderall, Ritalin, Seroquel, Lexapro. That's a new one. That's Zyprexa. That's an antipsychotic. I found that. It was in a bag.
I'll be right there. I'm just eating.
My biggest fear when she grows up is the consequences of her actions are going to be worse and worse. Sexual choices, you're going to have, promiscuity, stuff like that, drugs, alcoholism, just running away, suicide, hurting yourself.
Good night, princess.
Good night.
Have sweet dreams tonight, okay? I'm fearful. There's gonna be a cycle again. That's the probability.
Bipolar disturbance is the pop diagnosis du jour, and I absolutely feel as though people don't understand the disturbance in the way in which I think it needs to be understood.
My anxiety is because there's so much we don't know. It's easy to overdiagnose something. The literature on pediatric bipolar disorder is in its infancy. That's my opening statement when I'm talking to a parent who wonders. 3% of the electoral returns are in on this condition. I'm not calling this election yet.
How's the world look from there?
Silly. This is cuckoo. Okay, let's get this party started.
All right.
I see.
Both kids were placed with us right after birth. First Casey, and then when he was about 3 months old, the mother was pregnant again.
There you go.
There were a lot of risk factors, mental illness in both families, on both sides. So we knew it was kind of risky. We kind of went for the nature versus nurture, that the nurture would kind of win out. We first noticed Casey when he was an infant, he wouldn't sleep.
We didn't know that there was anything serious. But as he started to grow, Maria noticed that his eyes would stay open when he would sleep. It was kind of eerie. You'd walk in and see him, sound asleep, but his eyes would be at half-mast. It was just very, very eerie looking. And, she got out her DSM-4 and started looking up neurological disorders and stuff. And she kind of diagnosed him like way before it was ever official, I think. There you go.
Get it! Give it back! Can you drink all my water? Anything like that. Meow. Hubba hubba.
They look like every other kid, but they're not. Not a day goes by without something being slammed or kicked or hit or punched, and most people don't see that. Let's take a nap.
Bedtime yet? No?
We go to bed at 8. We go to bed at 8.
Casey was always on the go, never stopped.
What do you see up there, Case?
The spider webs.
But the biggest thing is he had these days in a row. We used to call them psycho days. And he just used to be so irritable and scream and cry for 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row.
It's been all but knocked off its hinges, but you can see this part of it here, just from constant repeated slamming. And this window's been broken.
Slashed his mattress.
Slashed his mattress. It's entirely out of his control. That's become evident since we've had him, because I used to think I thought it was just a kid being a kid, a boy being a boy, you know. But it's clearly more than that.
Shut up, Dad! Get up! Get up, Dad! Shut up!
I do remember him with a knife saying he was going to stab somebody one time. This is when he was fairly young. This is like 5 or 6. Hitting, kicking. I've been bitten. I had my lips busted, both of them. No bones busted. Lots of bruises. Threw my shoulder out. So, you know, this stuff that goes with a kid going absolutely bonkers on you. And he can't help it. He can't help it. It's like he's hit with jumper cables when these episodes happen. It's like a seizure. We've likened it to a seizure.
It's scary sometimes. Well, once he started biting me, and guess what happens? I start to bleed.
Case? Yeah. Can you take your medicine for me? Thank you.
A neurologist told me that it would be criminal not to medicate this child. That was like the big, okay, what do we need to do? And that was the start of his treatment.
Ugh, hate it.
You want me to count? Okay. 1. Finish up?
I have 2 more to go.
Okay, I'm watching. 1, 2, 3.
I take like 8 or 10. I take like 10 a day. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 fingers a day.
Annie was very calm when she was young, and then all of a sudden she spit at her preschool teacher as she got older. She took all the butter knives from the drawer and she put them under her pillow.
I need to go get it. I need to go get it.
Come on. Calm down.
I need something.
You gotta stop.
I need it.
I'll give you a drink, okay? You want to take a break for a drink?
Yes.
Okay, take a time out. Time out for a drink. Time out for a drink, okay? Time out. Don't hit mom. We've tried the naughty step. I'm manning 911. You know, people say in so many words, well, maybe you should try parenting skills. Or one school psychologist says, well, we need to take a look at what's going on at home.
And we went to the parenting classes, and you know, I used to teach parenting classes, but we still went to the parenting classes, and nothing worked. It was the last resort, and you always hear people saying, well, how can you put your kids on meds? And I don't know any parent that says, oh, I want to put my kid on meds. It's just not something that people do. It's the very last resort when, you know, your child can't function normally.
There were little peeps living in my brain.
Is that true or is that a story?
It's true.
What peoples live in your brain?
Red, yellow, purple, green, pink, black. I always hear the voices like this. Hello, 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 hello. Oh, and one of the voices sounds like this. Hello, yay.
It exists, it's very real, and it's scary. It's scary to think of them growing into teenagers and then growing into young adults. And from what I hear, the profound, the anger and the outbursts that we're experiencing now turns into profound depression. And then suicide.
It's hot enough.
This is my heater. Inside.
I was taught that little kids didn't get suicidal. Depression was a new phenomenon, and adults who have bipolar illness commit suicide at a substantial rate. So when you run across a child who's actively feeling suicidal, or is hearing voices and is having wild mood states, it really takes your breath away. Like, what is happening with this child?
You want to see it?
Yeah, sure.
See, like, all there, see the paint's like tearing off and the door jams like broke it off. I'll get like really mad and I'll slam my door till it breaks. He's just like really like upset and like things like really aren't worth it and stuff. That's basically it. Sure. People with bipolar disorder have 26 times the chance of a regular person of dying of suicide. Okay, so your kid has just been diagnosed with this, and you're told you might outlive them. And it's like a life sentence, you know? Feels like a potential death sentence.
When I go really upset and stuff, I say, like, I wish I was never born and stuff like that.
I remember Matthew telling me, and he would have these dreams where helicopters would cut his sister's heads off and the blood would go spurting everywhere, or a ghost would swallow him whole. Jessica has, to our knowledge, she's attempted twice to kill herself.
3 times.
Hannah just tells me 3 times. She had plans other times, and she would talk about it like it was a normal thing. You know, she was like, oh yeah, I had plans A, B, C, and 4. You know, and laugh about it. Like this is normal, that people would think this way. And, you know, and then over time, you become used to it. And then you think, how could I not be upset that she's doing this again? It just becomes part of your life, and that is crazy in and of itself.
You know, in Matthew's case, he was very, very aggressive. In Jessica's case, she was very fearful.
Matt, can you test the pan again for me, please? Matt. He was always very affectionate and kind, and then you would have a week where it was like you didn't even know the kid. I mean, he wouldn't do anything. He would take markers and draw on the walls if he was mad at you. One time, he held up a butcher knife at me because I wouldn't let him have a whole container of pretzels before lunch. It would have never happened 2 months ago. Since Wednesday. And,
I don't feel like telling all my friends. I wish they could know it, like that. Something like that I get mad easy, I get sad easily, certain stuff like that, but I just don't want to say it because I don't really want to tell them. Don't really feel like telling them.
Get angry sometimes, like I have leg cramps at night. It really suck. But that's about it. Depends. I can't really think of it right off the top of my head, but a bunch of different things.
been putting puzzle pieces together since Andrew was a newborn baby. We have a neuropsychologist who agreed that yes, we had ADHD, yes, we had a nonverbal learning disability, and we had something else going on. So she sent us to our first pediatric psychiatrist who said, I think I'm looking at my first case of pediatric bipolar disorder.
The medicines are causing any problems for you?
I don't know. Well, I've been having lots of leg cramps at night.
What kind of cramps?
Leg cramps.
Oh, leg cramps. They're back again.
Yeah.
Do you think the medicines help in some way?
Sure.
What do you think they might help you with most with?
Control, maybe.
Control of?
My anger and stuff.
That's been a big issue for you over the years. The difference between normal childhood mood dysregulation and what these children are presenting with, in my mind, is like apples and oranges. These episodes that parents were describing, out-of-control rages that would go on for 20, 30, 60 minutes or longer with destructive, aggressive, violent behavior, then with rapid switches within the same day to giddy, hyper-euphoric spells, and then down to more sad, blue, melancholy, hopeless, crying bouts.
And he said, Mom, I don't want to be blown up in a plane. He said, if I do anything, you know I'm going to blow my brains out. And when I say to him, Andrew, do you know if your brain was feeling well, you wouldn't say that kind of thing. You wouldn't even think it.
He managed to get a hold of a razor. I think he had shoplifted it from a store. And in our waiting room, while waiting to see me, started cutting at his arms and bleeding. And we went to bandage him up. But in addition to that, he was despondent, hopeless, suicidal, wished he were dead.
It should be defrosted. We should be ready in about 15 minutes, okay?
That's a long time.
Well, life's, you know what?
A bitch.
Yep.
Life's a bitch and you die. A little depressing, don't you think? This is the boxes.
We've been in some of the darkest places that I can ever imagine, where we didn't think he was going to make it. To where we are today, in the last 2 years, last year and a half, we've avoided what we would call a crash.
Andrew? Andrew? Are you up and listening? No? Andrew? The brain doesn't work without food.
Yes, it does.
No. Yeah, prove it. Go get dressed. And then you'll meet me in the den. Deal? Okay. Math book?
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Work on your light touch, not your...
Public education in this country gives up on children with disabilities. Andrew's had private tutors since he was 4 years old, 4 hours a week.
For what?
They'd like a dozen boxes and a dozen sports figures. You up for it?
Yes.
See you Monday. Okay, on to math.
All right, now, can you read me that number?
428,000.
428,000, excellent.
So 4 times 20, right? I'm not gonna ask for it. I know it's 4.
Every single day is a challenge.
Trace your,
Some months and some weeks and some years are far more challenging, but every day is a challenge.
Poker? We're going to do a little poker and a little chess and a little spelling because we have 2 hours, okay?
Okay.
A little tight.
Move right here now.
Yes, that's good. Any one of the 4 sides will do.
People say to me on a regular basis, Andrew is so lucky to have you for a mother. Andrew's not lucky at all, because if he didn't come from a family with generations of rampant, devastating psychiatric illness, he would be healthy.
Someday I want to be a doctor. Surgeon.
What? Ooh, actually it looks delicious.
You want one?
No, but I'd take a bite.
Oh, nice. The children can come in.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, let's go. I hold on to the hope that we can beat back some of the worst effects of this disease. Let's go home. That Andrew can make his way in the world. Come on, guys. And I hope there are breakthroughs that allow him to do that. You'd like to give him just something in return that makes his life just a little bit easier, a little bit more rewarding, a little less hard. If he doesn't have to climb a mountain, maybe he just has to climb a hill every day. And, that would make me happier than I can even articulate.
And I said, but you quit, and then he wouldn't put his fingers down.
The real problem is people hate themselves, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
We, after many years with different health professionals, ended up almost every 2 years getting a diagnosis of bipolar disorder for each of the children. It happened when they were in first grade. But it isn't something that you get used to.
I wanted to go alone.
Yeah. You can't go alone to the library.
I'm not of a grown-up son with my brothers.
If you want to go to the library, I'll take you, but you can't tell them that they can't come. My kids are all very different from each other. On paper, they all have the same diagnoses, but they don't present like each other at all. It's been horrible. It's horrible in so many ways. It's actually hard to even orient myself. I had a lot of experience with children before I became a parent, and I knew from the moment Levi was born that something wasn't right. And I'm not the kind of person who easily asks for help, but I was calling the pediatrician saying something is wrong with this boy. And he cried constantly, and he never slept, and I mean never.
I thought about trying to jump out a window. I was constantly thinking about it. I mainly just I usually can't get rid of it. I mainly just have to wait for the mood to pass.
What happened with me is that I sort of categorized Levi as this in a separate category, and it was hard for me to accept any issues that he had, because I think I saw myself as somebody who was normal, who never had anything diagnosed, and how could I have a child who, had all these things wrong with him, seemingly, and some of it I've since learned are genetic things in my own family history that were never diagnosed.
Levi is very compulsive. He used to wash his hands until they bled, and he couldn't stop picking at a wall until the whole wall fell apart. And then he couldn't look at that wall, and he'd have to put paper up over it. And Dana, who's my second child, is very impulsive. They gave him medication for ADD, Strattera, and he became manic and climbed the furnace within an hour of when he was first given it and burnt the palms off his hands. He tends to hit people, blame people, but he also moves with the speed of light. He's mad, then he's not mad, and he's here, and then he's not there. And it's hard to see how that's the same diagnosis.
Well, why don't you do the drops?
I think I sort of went from one child to the other. I saw that Levi wasn't quite right, and then moved on to Dana, and saw that Dana wasn't quite right, and then moved on to Asher. And then when he ended up with this same diagnosis, after he went to school, my sort of one hope, my one perfect child, had issues as well. And then it was like, well, I really need to come to grips with this, because there's no place to run away and hide anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing that I was talking about right here. Oh, I'm looking for the toys.
He was suicidal at the age of 7. I might have been one who denied this at one point in my life, and saying, well, no way a child can think about that at that young an age. But I saw it with the pressure from the adult world, with the pressure from school.
Very nice.
your sight reading is really good, Asher.
I think that they're both in the middle.
It was very scary. I never knew when he was just gonna go kill himself.
Listeners also played.
He would just bolt, and he would really be gone, and we couldn't find him for hours. He started taking ropes and tying them around his neck. We had bunk beds, which I took down because he tried to put a rope around his neck and jump off the top.
Okay, so I don't rollerblade down Marshall Street. I just kind of walk down, then I put it on and I rollerblade there. I just need to find.
We finally started a new medicine about 3 weeks ago. And he'd go to school and he'd be telling me he had a terrible time. And yesterday, I thought I heard the front door. And I called out, nobody answered. I went, there was nobody there. And I thought I heard something. And I went searching around and I found Asher hiding in a closet upstairs.
It was in math. And then after, when it was recess time, they just wouldn't let me do anything. And I just couldn't take it anymore, so I just ran, and I ran home, basically.
The school is more than half a mile away, and he was home, and I had talked to him before anyone even called me. They don't watch him. I can't do this anymore, and we have a good school for him, but he can't start until the fall, and so we'll have another stupid meeting and talk about what to do and everyone will pretend it's okay until the next crisis. And then last night when it was bedtime, this poor kid, he's saying, "Mommy, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you about my life. I just have a terrible life. I can't do anything right. I ran away from school today. Everyone thinks I'm a bad person. Even I think I'm a bad person." Normal people whose brain chemistry isn't affected by this illness can have a nightmare, but you wake up before you're killed. My kids dream over and over again, and in their dreams they die. They see themselves die. How do you make this better for a kid? You can't explain it. Why is this happening? We don't know why. We can't even begin to go there. There is no why, it just is, and our job is to cope. And I can help you by supporting you. I can help you by bringing you to a doctor who can give you the right medicine. I can help you by letting you talk about it. I can help you by fighting with the school to get the right help, but I can't make it go away. And that's what we all want, is to make it go away. And you can't.
Got pill. This is my pill.
That's for your thyroid?
No, the red one's for my thyroid.
The thyroid can get messed up with the, I believe.
The side effects, it just sucks seeing a little kid that is being outcast because of her behavior. And so you put them on medication, and what happens? Well, she gets bigger, so it's like she's now targeted. It just... Sometimes you feel like you just can't win.
It's scary. Nobody really knows what the long-term effects are.
I hope I can find a medicine combination that doesn't have any negative side effects that helps.
The younger the child, the weaker the scientific data. People don't want their children in scientific experiments of brain-altering medicines. So the evidence is not that great for one medicine, two medicines. Once you add 3 or 4 medicines, you're really way out of the scientific knowledge base.
And the medications that are being used that are available none of which are FDA approved in this population. They have greater risks of Stevens-Johnson syndrome or sudden death or lithium toxicity.
He's a little bipolar too.
I do think there is a quick fix, easy way out that many parents feel seduced by. They can walk out with a prescription and oftentimes don't want to be held accountable for how they have been enabling entitlement and craziness in the family.
Here's the card. They're gonna go like.
I know Asher didn't do that. He went by 1, 2.
Everyone agrees that these children are very clearly impaired.
What about?
But how should one medicate them? People have disagreements and continue to do research, and ultimately we get a clearer answer. This is the process of science. Now, of course, it's very, very difficult for the families who have to live with it.
He's on heavy-duty meds now, and at least once a month, we say, are they doing anything? Should we take him off it? But when he was taken off it, he went to the hospital. And if Annie misses a dose of her meds, 12 hours later, she missed it because she's just bouncing off the wall.
Ow!
Hey, to your room.
You can see me. I can see anywhere I want to see. Ashes on the mountains. You can see the houses. I know that you can. Next one.
You hate putting the chemicals in your child because you don't know long term, what's it going to do to her in 10 years or 20 years. It's just not enough research. But I want her to have a life, and if giving that to her, she gets to have a life, then that's...
We knew it was going to be really tough raising these guys. We had no idea that we'd be ostracized. I knew that word growing up. I never experienced it, and it was very strange, especially moving to a small town. You figured people are, a closely knit community, and people kind of more or less took care of their own as opposed to the big city. Or bigger cities, but no, man, they shut us out, and they just basically kind of treat you like you don't exist.
Socially, it's been really difficult for the kids. They don't really have any friends. They're not invited on play dates. Annie's never been invited on a play date. She's 8.
And it's prompted us to look elsewhere as far as moving and just getting into a different part of the community.
Andrew wanted a bar mitzvah. So how do you make a bar mitzvah for a child that doesn't have friends? And how do you make a party? We had a summer bar mitzvah for Andrew on a Saturday morning. I did that very purposely because I didn't want Andrew to wonder why there weren't children coming.
And make some noise for Andrew.
No.
You want to just go play with me?
No. Can we play with you? I would love to.
This one lady, she was telling her son every day that Liv was just bad. And I said, I'm trying everything I can, and you're undoing everything I'm trying to accomplish with my daughter. And she told me that Liv was just a bad seed, and she and a group of parents had gotten together, and they had a nickname for her, and they wanted her to not be at their school. My ultimate goal is to not have to have Liv go back to that school district. So the for sale sign, I want to be out of this town.
There's so many people out there that think childhood mental illness, it doesn't exist. It's a joke. It's always the bad parent. God, when I taught my kid, of course, because your kid maybe didn't have a mental illness.
It's a fear. People are afraid if they acknowledge that this is a biological thing, it could happen to anybody, and it could happen to them. It could happen to their loved ones. And if you can strike it up to character flaw, and you know that you've been a perfect parent, then this can happen to your kid.
She just snapped. She was hearing voices. She was talking about the red man. The red man was telling her to do horrible things. She was like a wild animal. She would come after my husband and I. She would hit us, kick us. The whole time she was doing it, she was laughing. She had this evil laugh. But here we are. Her hospital's across the street. I don't know if I can get it because a big truck just pulled up in front of it. Let me try. She's all the way up. That's her window up there, the second one in. I just met with the doctors. They diagnosed her bipolar with psychotic features. I guess that's better than schizophrenia or schizoaffective. I'm not sure. They're doing a med change. Hopefully, the change in meds will do something. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Now far you've come?
Yes.
When you were first here, and you would strike out almost every session.
Not at you.
At who? Talking about being mad because Dwight Howard became Superman.
Dwight Howard is not Superman. Shaq is Superman.
But you began to talk about it.
Sorry, I got a little carried away.
And do you remember on a scale of 1 to 10 how strong they were? I'd say about a 10.
Oh, come on. Give me an 8 at least.
How about an 8.5?
8.2.
You just really started to control yourself.
Why do you think that is?
I'm a better person now.
But why?
You began to say, I feel like doing this.
Wouldn't I say it with a little more profanity?
Yeah. You had a nice vocabulary. You had a very nice vocabulary.
I don't know what to call what we're doing with Asher. Legally, he's on medical leave from school awaiting a therapeutic placement. I started getting phone calls about Dana a few weeks ago. He would simply start crying in class, and then he started talking about suicide, which is a completely new thing for him. We figured out that it was a medication reaction. It was a side effect of the ADHD med, but it may have jeopardized his school placement. We're just on our own now.
No, it was 32nd.
I think it was the second week.
Yeah, I got outstanding camper. Mom keeps getting it confused with camper of the week, and it gets kind of annoying when I told her 10,000 times it's outstanding camper.
And he's also been working on a whole healthy eating and exercise thing.
And I earned
so
$60 from it so far.
Every week that he makes his goals.
And I got $50 for my grandma.
It's always been hard for Matt. He's still got this illness. It's not going away, but he's managing it much, much better than before. And it's both of them. They're almost like typical kids as long as they remember to take their medicine.
We'll have Matt run some out routes.
It's being tough on him when you need to be tough on him because there's no excuses. I think early on we excused far too much of his bad behavior by his illness.
Go pop up. I'm just kidding.
I know there's going to be ups and downs, but he's not disabled. And I'm never going to treat him like disabled, and I'm never going to have different expectations for him that I did when he was born.
It's a little hot for that.
You know, I want him to lead a full, happy, healthy life.
It's enjoyable now. She wakes up for school. The medicines are working. The schools she's at has just been phenomenal.
This, and this are going to be doing for right here, the hair.
If you look at your self-portrait in the photo, your hair comes right up to your cheek. Remember we talked about behind your head?
Because there's like water in it, I just spread it down.
Remember, there's no right or wrong when it's a self-portrait.
A year ago, we thought she might have submerged herself in a bath. And she was hearing voices telling her to do stuff.
That good?
That looks better.
But everything is working together now. And if they did the research and were able to keep a kid, oh my God, can you imagine how awesome that would be if you could prevent a kid from having to be hospitalized for 5 weeks at a time, or prevent them from being ostracized in their school for 2 solid years. That'd be pretty cool.
Dime,